Welcome to another episode of the Glint Standard. And this month we're talking about time management. So why don't we get started? Expect in the next 15 minutes to hear data, something that you can take with you. Also tips and strategies for managing your time. Craig!
Yes, ma'am.
Hi!
I'm on time.
Do I need to read your bio? No, I don't
Probably
need to read
not.
it.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, so this month we are talking about time.
Yeah. Really important. You only have so much of it.
Yes. And, I always feel like we talk about the pandemic a lot because,
Yeah.
but it's so relevant, and it still is relevant because we're reeling from the effects of it.
Right.
And time became something that we were laser focused on.
Time
And how
balance
we-
as far as work-life balance. Time in that regard.
Work life, how we use our time. We're at home
Okay.
all the time.
Yeah.
For those of us who couldn't escape.
The 24 hours a day thing is there every day.
Yeah.
And that's all you get.
Yeah.
So it's
And
pretty important.
it was a huge adjustment. And I found myself procrastinating a lot, knowing what I had to do, but working at home, but also having to take care of other things. Okay, let me shift this down a little bit, and having to readjust. So it was a difficult time. So anyway, so we're talking about time management, and I know how much you love data and facts.
Do.
Which
Do.
now I'm
You
really-
might love it more than
I'm
me,
being
actually.
funny.
Let's maybe go that direction. Just
I'm
give me the
being
information,
funny.
and then I'll do something with it.
Okay.
I don't have to find it.
Well, just talking about procrastinators.
Okay.
According to one source, procrastinators make on average less than 15,000 than non-procrastinators.
So I like that you're tying that to money because that matters. That really matters. So if you think about that,
15,000.
why do you think that is?
Because you're not being as
Just
productive.
as efficient? You're not
Yeah.
producing
It's about
enough?
right. It's about productivity.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Makes
But
sense.
15,000. Okay, this is a big one. But wait, actually, let me go back. Let's go back to productivity. Did you know that if you spend 10 to 12 minutes planning your day, you'll save up to 2 hours of time? 2 hours.
Yeah.
You will get 2 hours back
Look how
of your
much I'm
time.
smiling. I don't know about the numbers, but that makes sense to me.
That makes sense. Okay, here's another one. After checking email, it takes 23 minutes to get back on track.
Yeah.
23 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that's a trip down to Walgreens. So I can just do some mindless shopping.
It's
that's
bizarre that shopping came into this.
I know. Because 23 minutes you don't get back.
Yeah. Do you think people really look at it in regards to, I'd love the stats because the stats are right.
Yeah.
And data is great because it tells you how things are. Mm-hmm. And then you structure yourself. But do you feel like people want to be on board with being so structured that they deliver that way? Like, here's where it is, so you got to adjust the way you're doing things. Or it's important you just realize. So when you're overwhelmed at the end of the day, you're not getting everything done. If you really sit and go back, how much time did you, I don't want to say waste, but how much time were you not focused on accomplishing the things that needed to be done that day? Mm-hmm. Some of that just good, strong mental capacity and determination. Mm-hmm. And it wipes you out. You can't do that every day because it will wipe you out.
Yeah, or good planning and really kind of lowering your expectations mainly. Mm-hmm. So a good rule of thumb that I've heard is you have a list and you have 3 things in that day that you want to accomplish. That's it. And so, I mean, it seems very low, but at the end of the day, it's pretty adequate.
Yeah.
3 things. Don't put any more, don't put any less. And that's a good rule of thumb. I learned that in some training classes and leadership classes. So I live by that. So I would say that's a loving lately for me.
Yeah.
For me. But okay, one more.
Okay.
Workers receive on average 7 to 8 disruptions per hour.
Per hour.
7 to 8. this equals 50 to 60 per day, most of which are unnecessary.
Based on your last stat, that's how do you get anything done?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
So you have to be thoughtful on if you're going to interrupt somebody or not, really, because you're off track. You got to get back on track. Part of the reason I seem annoyed sometimes when questions come in and maybe I don't feel like they're super important questions or the questions could have been figured out. That tends to get me off edge a little bit. So maybe that's some of that, and some of that's just me having to be a little more understanding sometimes too. But that makes a lot of sense. When I get focused in, I'm focused in because I know I need to, and I'd rather focus in, get it done, and just drive through it than stop and start because I know it's going to take longer. The problem with that is I'm oblivious to everything.
Yeah.
I don't see my phone. I don't check my email. I'm late going home sometimes. I really zone in, but that's just, I get really involved in what I'm doing.
You know, that's another good topic about balance and your workplace balance and having, so that sometimes when you're in that mode, there are others that are not in that mode, or when sometimes those others are in that mode, you're not. And it just balances out the climate. So
that's where the interruptions come from, and probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Maybe that is a whole nother one. That'd be a good one.
But the last thing, really, to me, that ties all of this together is going back to the pandemic, COVID, is just mental health and how important mental health is, and spotlighting time management in terms of helping and strengthening your mental health, because 46% of stress was reported against employees in the U.S. is caused by an overwhelming workload. 46% of stress. That's almost half of stress is the workload.
Yeah, and you think especially with
and overwhelming.
Some of the less experienced people coming into our industry, especially, it's it's a stressful environment already, and then you tie anxiety into that, and then you've got to produce and hit deadlines, which comes back to time. Time can affect a lot of things. Yeah, that's.
And I think being out, we don't really know what's realistic on what's getting done. So going back to, for me, 3 things a day. Now, they might be in different categories. One might be work, one might be the kid, one might be the parents, but 3 things I can feel good. But just knowing, because I think we were at home and we thought we could get done 20 things in the day. And that's not really being realistic.
It's not. You got to know that's not your planned day. That's your show up day.
Yeah.
And you got 20 little things just to start chipping away at. But know that's what that day is. It's not a planned, full, complete a campaign type day. There's one thing that I find helps drive me to, when you get mentally tired and you don't want to check in and you're like, and you procrastinate. When you get in and it's done, it's off, and you're like, feels so good.
It's a load, but getting
there's tough, but there's a reward at the end. So if you do 1 or 2 or 3 things, if you can finish it, you feel great.
Well, so speaking of that, because it could just be anything, if you feel accomplished. So there's a lot of, I want to say Brene Brown has said this before, but even if you get up and you make your bed, and in your mind, that's a task that then it's going to propel you to go to another one, or putting a load of laundry in, or writing a thank you card. It's those little things that can help launch you off to bigger things, and hopefully that will translate into your work.
Yeah, knowing you got to have that balance or reward in there somewhere. That helps with time. That helps overcome procrastination, which is what you brought up a minute ago, which then leads to less stress and reduces anxiety. All that is about managing your time. The hard part is self-discipline for managing your time and not relying on someone else to manage that time for you. Because that can be a real challenge.
Yep, somebody else.
It's hard. You have to get that.
So
nobody does, but a lot of people do. Nobody says they do, but a lot really
at the end of
do
the
count
day,
on it. Yeah,
they do. And
just tell me what to do.
Then you have this micromanaging. Oh, it becomes a whole cycle.
Anxiety and stress right back in there.
Yes. Okay, so we've laid out a lot of problems and a lot of things that we need to adjust in terms of time, managing our time, workloads, feeling overwhelmed in life in general, and just mental support that's needed.
Yeah.
So, what can we give our viewers and our listeners, or what solutions can we give all the people that are listening or watching to help manage their time? And what I want us to both focus on are perhaps apps that somebody can download immediately,
Yep.
techniques that perhaps you use, I use, or even philosophies. I gave a couple of philosophies or things that I use in my mind every single day. So that's kind of how I want to set this part of it. So
I think it's a great way to look at it.
yeah. So what are you loving lately on how to manage your time?
I have, I'm going to say, matured enough to realize in my life when I start to feel like there's so much and I don't know where to focus on and just dig in and go, because I tend to be okay doing that. It puts me in a weird place. So it's okay to stop, take 25, 30 minutes, even an hour if you have to, organize yourself. Maybe that email list has been a mess. Maybe there's papers all over your desk. Organize, get cleaned, have a fresh start.
Yeah.
And you need to do that sometimes. And I believe there's some apps that help you do that. And there's apps. We used to have a time tracking program here called Timular, and it was a cube. It would also tie digitally. You could do it on your phone, all that. But you also had a cube on your desk.
And I bet it was.
And you could flip it over for what you're doing. But you're like, paying it. Everybody takes that as, oh, how long am I working on a project? It's all about billable time. It's not. It's about you realizing what it takes you to accomplish things. Not going, I knocked that out in an hour. Realistically, it's 3.
Okay, but that sounds so cute though. I'm gonna
My
Google that.
my little thing.
Yeah, so it would sit on a desk. Cute. That's very cute.
I'll give you one if you want one.
I want to just try it, although I don't know. I mean,
So
that's
there's
another thing,
that, right?
Yeah.
You've got your personal things. I tend to set myself, ground myself before every day. Think about what's coming on. You talked about planning 24 hours ahead.
Yeah.
I typically do that early in the morning. And then I take a break. I'm petting my dog, have my coffee, and I'm starting to get through the little things and just chunk them away. No, the big task for me, the 1, 2, 3s. This is what has to be done. This is my one for today, because I know when I can even look a week, a month, because of our software program called ClickUp, just tying it into work as our project organization tool. I know what's coming, so I can look at all that and go, today I'm worn out. I'm going to accomplish one thing today, and I'm going to accomplish it.
But I think experience helps you manage that.
It
definitely.
Does. It definitely
and
does.
knowing, I think that's to your advantage.
Well, what
which is a
are
good thing.
some of yours?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I love your mighty wins. Just the organizing to me, or not mighty wins, small wins. I should say that. Organizing is a small win.
It
If
is.
you can get the pathway perfect, clean, then that's going to make you feel so much better about the
It
rest
just
of the
makes you go.
project.
It's
Yes.
like having that
And
nice,
it's
calm,
not a
deep
waste
breath.
of time.
That's how I feel when it's done.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm old fashioned. I am a calendar traditionalist.
Everyone should be.
I love a calendar.
I think that's really important.
And even I know myself so well that I like written calendars. I'm trying to adapt. I'm really trying to adapt.
I thought I was the
But
old
it's
one in the
something
agency.
It's something about writing a task down or writing something down,
Interesting.
obviously, that commits it to memory.
Even if you wrote it down on a digital thing, that could go. It has to be on paper, or does that count?
I love that we use our iPads.
Okay.
And that helps.
Accomplishes the same thing.
It accomplishes the same thing.
Interesting.
It's the
Okay.
act of writing it down that commits.
Okay.
I love blocking time to do certain things. I talked about the Pomodoro technique. I think it works. You set aside 25 minutes to do this, put it in your calendar. If you share your calendar, people can see it
Yep.
so that they know I am working on this task. And in fact, you don't even have to say what task it is. Do not disturb Erina from 10 a.m. to 10:30. And then if I can accomplish that, then maybe I can set aside larger chunks later on during the day. Put in breaks, but scheduling your time during the day is something that I love doing. I know a lot of people talk about this or would say this about me. I love scheduling meetings, but not really meetings. It's not meetings because I don't want to meet, but it's scheduling time to do certain things. So it might just be in my calendar and not in somebody else's.
Maybe stop some of those interruptions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like grouping everything
Yeah.
into so that I can manage my calendar, I can see it, and also that communicates to someone else. So we're going to talk about this, but let's talk about it at 2:00 versus right now or in bits and pieces, so I
Yep.
can focus on this.
No, I think that's a good way to handle it. It also tells you if it's important. Oh, we don't need to. Okay, well then,
Yeah.
there you know.
Sure.
And if you maintain that consistency, it does become normalized, and then people understand. So I will find that if I really have to be zoned in, I won't come into work
Yeah.
because you have to know you're going to be interrupted, but
Yeah.
you have to be available for people too. I mean,
Right.
if you're in, you know that's part of it. So if it's an hour, 2-hour tasks, no problem coming in. If it's going to take longer than that, a lot of times I won't come in.
See, and I like that. I like communicating that too. I think there's nothing wrong. Nothing
I
wrong
agree.
with saying what you need to be productive. The other thing, and I know we're running out of time because I love this.
I know we get excited about this stuff. We do.
But if there's one thing that I could tell anybody to do with their time and to manage their time, calendaring is good. That's awesome. But if you don't have priorities attached to those tasks that you have blocked out in your calendar, then it's all for naught, really. Prioritizing is so important, and I think that you learn this in classes, you learn this with experience, but knowing in your head which tier activities go on is really important. There is a tactic called the Eisenhower method that uses 4 quadrants, and you put your task in each one of the quadrants. So it's urgent, not urgent, important, not important, and it helps you look through what needs to be attacked immediately. Man, Craig.
No, that's good, and I'll
I mean, and then the icing. Wait, the icing.
icing. We're talking about cake.
Communicate those priorities.
That's the key. You got to tell people. You can't just assume everyone knows. I think a lot of it comes down to self-discipline. It comes down to there's a lot of tools out there. Basecamp for projects, Basecamp, Asana, ClickUp, all these tools to help you manage your projects. You've got calendars for yourself. You've got apps. You've got timekeepers if you want them. Everybody works a little bit differently. Pick the one that works for you. The company may have a consistent one, but most of those can be adapted for the way you want to work. That way because that's the point, is to do it for
Customize
yourself.
it. Yeah.
And know the reward of spending that time to get yourself organized will reward less anxiety, less stress, and give you a great self-accomplishment when you're done. And those are so important, and it helps combat the challenges you might have. You can't just show up ever.
Yeah.
Pre-plan. That's
Yep.
a big piece of it. So
Pre-plan.
that's my thought.
And I think some of the anxiety comes from misaligning priorities too, because if my boss's priority is this, and then mine is here, and they're just, I'm trying to guess what his is, and I'm not just asking, or the other way.
You know what they say about assuming.
Don't make assumptions, So really, really important. Okay, man,
great.
we could do a whole
Maybe
other
do a part 2.
because, we didn't even get into empowering people and delegating tasks and things like that to make your day less overwhelming. But
That's a great one to touch on. Let's do that one.
okay, we'll have to do like a whole.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today for the Glint Standard. We were talking time, how to manage your time, and we threw out some nuggets there, things that you can use today, tomorrow, and maybe even next week to help you. So catch us on YouTube, follow us on social, visit our website at glintadv.com, and we'd love to hear from you, always.
Please give us a thumbs up below if you like this episode, and feel free to leave us any questions or comments you may have. To check out our past episodes, do so here. Subscribe to our channel below.